Welcome to Just One Long Thing, a series of special editions of my BBC Radio 4 podcast, Just One Thing, where I quiz the world's leading health experts on the best ways to live well. From talking to strangers to boost happiness, to ageing disgracefully to live longer. I'll be learning the top tips that the experts swear by to maximise your health and well-being. And as this is a Just One Thing special, I'll end each interview by asking our expert to choose the one personal health hack that they would say is the single most effective way you can improve your life. In this exercise special, I'm delighted to be joined by Marie Murphy, Professor of Exercise and Health at Ulster University and Director of the Physical Activity for Health Research Centre at the University of Edinburgh. She is one of the world's leading researchers on the best ways to exercise to boost health. Hello, Marie. Lovely to have you with us.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
Now, why should we exercise? What do you see as the main benefits?
Oh, there's huge benefits. I suppose from my perspective, the most important ones for me are the physical benefits. So for most major diseases, over 23 diseases that we're likely to succumb to at some point, all of those can be either prevented or delayed by being active. More recently, we know also that there are psychological and social benefits. So psychological improves your mood, lower rates of depression, helps you cope with anxiety. And then the other bit is the social benefit, the enjoyment of being with other people, connecting with other people and being physically active with friends, colleagues, family.
What's the most important thing for you?
For me, it's about staying healthy. I'm blessed that I was born healthy and I've been relatively healthy my whole life. And for me now, at this age and stage, it's about maintaining that health, the physical and mental health. And I absolutely know from the evidence that if I keep active and keep moving, and the more I do of that, the more likely I am to stay healthy into old age.
If it's so brilliant, why are so many of us reluctant to do it?
That's a really good question, and it's one that's been taxing the minds of psychologists for many, many years. I would say from talking to so many people who are what I would call non-exercisers and who don't love physical activity, very often it's because they haven't found the activity that they enjoy. They haven't found the thing that makes them want to keep coming back to it. Again, I'm fortunate. I love walking, I love cycling, I love running. But if you don't like those things, they're not the only ways to be active. And I think it's trying to find a way of being active that you enjoy. I think the other challenge is that sometimes exercise has been sold to us as being hard, being a punishment. You're trying to work off the calories you ate or you drank too much or whatever. And it's seen as a negative punishment, no pain, no gain sort of thing. Whereas I think if you reframe that and you think of how good it makes you feel, then it's something you look forward to doing rather than live in dread of doing.
Got it. Now, as someone who doesn't love exercising, I'm all for getting the maximum benefit for the minimum effort. So let's kick off with your first tip. What is it?
This tip is exercise in short, vigorous bursts. So we can do exercise in short bouts. And if you have a chance during your normal course of your day to do some vigorous exercise, then we now call it vigorous intermittent lifestyle physical activity, VILPA. Yeah. So if you can do some VILPA, run up the stairs, do a little bit of brisk walking as part of your day, and just make it fit into your normal life, then if you're not the type that loves exercise, or you're not the type of person that can put an hour aside a day to go to the gym, then that will help you fit it in, make it fit your lifestyle, and make it become a habit.
Right. I mean, I try to build it as an inevitable part of my life. So, for example, we live at the top of a steep hill. So I cycle down to the town for the shopping. I never drive down. And I always cycle back and I push myself hard when I'm on my way back.
That's a perfect example of this vigorous, intermittent lifestyle activity. So your lifestyle means that you need to go and get stuff from the shop. Your downhill cycle is probably light or moderate intensity. But the return journey gives you some vigorous thrown in there. And that's a perfect mix, particularly if you're somebody who doesn't seek out other opportunities to be active and you don't want to do the sort of structured formal exercise. That sort of finding a way of making it part of your life is definitely the answer. I describe it sometimes to students as we need to make it as habitual as brushing your teeth. You know, we brushed our teeth this morning. We probably don't even remember doing it because we've been doing it for so long. It's become part of our daily routine. So you got up, you did it. And I think if you build physical activity into your life that way so that it's part of your everyday, it becomes a little bit easier to manage it. There's a guy called Steve Blair, sadly died earlier this year, Professor Steve Blair from the Arnold School of Public Health in South Carolina. And he was a very, very prolific researcher in the area. And he was asked, he was a fat gentleman by his own admission, but he believed that you could be fit and fat. And he was asked one time, what's the best form of exercise? And he said, the best form is the one you'll keep doing every day. That's the most important thing. Making physical activity or exercise habitual trumps everything else, every bit of physical activity advice you could get.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned taking the stairs, and they're a brilliant way of building a bit of activity into your life. And that is one of the things I try to do. If I'm in a building, I take the stairs up and I take them down.
I fully endorse this notion of take opportunities that present themselves, and the stairs are brilliant. But one of your challenges, and I don't know because I came up in the elevator here today, one of your challenges, very often the elevators and the escalators are in pole position. They're right in front of you. They're glossy, they're gleaming, they're well decorated as you walk into a building. Where are the stairs? They're not conducive. They're not inviting. They don't look like you should even be there. You often go into them and you think, oh, am I in a fire exit? Is there an alarm going to go off? So they're not center stage. And I do think our architects could help us here. And I think some are, by putting stairs bang smack in the middle. The stairs are there. Let's take the stairs. And if it becomes the easy way, then it's more likely to develop as a habit.
Brilliant. Now, to sum up, rather than leave your exercise to a lunchtime run or evening session at the gym, why not do something little and often? Take the stairs instead of the lift. Not only could it be more manageable to get your daily exercise this way, but you could also receive more benefits. Is there evidence for more benefits of short bursts?
Yeah, so there's a little bit. So some of my early PhD work and some colleagues from various universities around the world have looked at the effects of breaking up one continuous bout into 3 or 4 shorter bouts throughout the day. And whilst we know the benefits are at least as equivalent, so it's just as good. Years ago, we used to think you had to do 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Now we know that every little bit adds up. But probably where the little short bouts have an advantage over the longer bout is in 2 different ways. First of all, they probably boost your metabolism on 3 separate occasions. And so when you stop exercising, you still burn energy at a slightly higher rate for a while. This sort of post exercise oxygen consumption remains slightly elevated. Now, if you do that 3 times during the day for your 10-minute walks versus 1 30-minute walk, you're getting 3 of those little post-exercise boosts to your metabolism. So perhaps in terms of energy expenditure, it's better. The second thing that I think is probably more important about the short bouts is if you miss an exercise, you're only missing 10 minutes. So if you, instead of doing your 30-minute walk and you can't do it today, life throws you a curveball, you're busy, whatever happens, and you miss it, you've missed 30 minutes. Whereas if you've missed 10 minutes, there's still a chance that you might get another 10 or even another 20 at another stage during the day. So for me, short bout exercise is the way to go if you're not a traditional, formal, structured exerciser.
So how did you get interested in the power of exercise to boost health?
Well, I started life in the States, as you probably can hear from my accent. And
it's a bit American and a bit Irish occasionally.
Oh, it's a complete mix. Yeah, I lived in the States until I was a teenager, and I was very much into gymnastics, so competitive sport. I moved back to Ireland, and my parents were Irish, and I had some great coaches. PE teacher, did hockey, did athletics, did anything that was going, and I loved competitive sport. And decided after one of my role models at the time, my PE teacher, that I wanted to become a PE teacher. So I went to Northern Ireland, became a PE teacher, taught PE for a while, but it amazed me about how many people just didn't like sport and didn't like exercise. You know, you said at the start that you were one of those people. I was frustrated by being a teacher, trying to enthuse people that really didn't like it. I went back and did my master's and PhD and really then got much more into this thing called physical activity rather than sport or exercise. So this notion that actually everyone should get these benefits and we need to think more about what are the benefits, how can we package this thing that I love called sport and exercise so that everyone can get those benefits. And to do that, it has to be packaged in a whole load of different ways, and we need to look at all the benefits. And so then I started working in Ulster University, far too long now to even tell you, as a lecturer, and now have spent the last 30 odd years researching in that area and working with some of the most amazing researchers from around the world.
And do you feel like you're making progress? Because my perception is that people say they do the recommended levels, but when you actually fit them with activity monitors, they clearly don't.
Yeah.
Do you think the country is becoming more sedentary?
Oh, it's a difficult one, because as you say, that there is a big difference between what people self-report and when we measure it objectively or with a device. And even the self-report, people aren't meeting the guidelines. So the guidelines say that every adult should do 30 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity every day of the week. And when you ask people, maybe 50 to 60% of the population are not doing that. So I don't know that all our efforts have really brought any more physical activity. It is such a stubborn thing to move. Population level physical activity is stubborn. Small percentage. Scotland have had small year-on-year percentage increases, but it's still hovering at the 60-odd% who meet the guidelines.
OK, with all that in mind, what's your next tip?
This tip is focus on your muscles as you get older. We really need to think about doing muscular strength exercise. And I say this as somebody who is advancing in years a little bit. And we know that of the physical activity guidelines, there is 2 or 3 elements to it. There's a bit that says do 30 minutes a day. Then there's another bit that says do resistance or do exercises which will maintain or build strength twice a week. And then there's a third bit that says, don't sit so much, don't be as sedentary. Now, that second bit, the build the strength or maintain your strength, is what we call, what my colleague Tessa Strain in University of Edinburgh calls the forgotten guideline, because it's the bit that many people don't do. Many people can't tell you that guideline. And the reason that I'm saying at my age this is becoming more important is we know that to live a long and healthy life ultimately is about being able to be independent and being able to move and get around under our own steam. And as we age, from about your 30s onwards, you're getting a decrease in your muscle mass and a decrease in your strength. And your muscles then are getting smaller, and smaller muscles mean less strong muscles that can't produce force. Certainly in Northern Ireland, my colleague Donald Macaulay was looking at the Northern Ireland Fitness Survey results back in the early 90s, and he found that 55% of people over the age of 65 did not have sufficient quad and glute strength to rise from an armchair unaided.
Wow, that is depressing.
Isn't it?
It
And
is.
so if you think about it, if your quad and glute strength go to the point that you can't rise out of an armchair or, without putting too fine a point on it, get on and off the toilet, then suddenly you need care. And most of us, when we talk about wanting to live long, we only want to live long if it can be long and independent and healthy. And so for me, the thing that we need to think about is, are we doing enough muscle strengthening exercise as we advance in years to maintain our physical function? Can we still walk up the stairs? Because that's what I want. And so I think your muscle strengthening exercise is the bit that we've neglected, and we need to put it back into our life.
Brilliant, because I've done that. I and my wife Claire, every morning we roll out of bed and we use that as a cue to do press-ups, squats, the plank, the lunge. So I don't love it, but I accept the challenge.
Perfect.
But it's not easy.
No, it's not.
Even knowing all the benefits, I still find it quite challenging.
No, it's not easy. Even I find that, and I'm one of those people that does enjoy exercise. That particular form of exercise is hard because your muscles are sore, your muscles are burning, and it is tiring. I like that you and Claire have made it a habit, because that means that it doesn't require too much thinking about, and you won't talk yourself out of it. It becomes something that fits into your routine, and it's just something you do. But I think one of the things, we don't watch TV the same way as we used to when my dear father was alive many years ago. And I used to always say to him, he lived into his 90s, I would say, well, once the commercials or the ads come on, that's your cue to stand up out of your armchair and sit back down 10 times, arms forward, and stand and sit down every time the ads come on. If you were to do that alone in a television program, you'd get your 30 squats in, no bother. And squats are exactly the muscles and the muscle movement, or the joint movement of the knees and hips, that get you to rise from a chair, which I know, people say, rising from a chair, that's easy. It's easy now. It's not easy for most 90-year-olds. And if you want it to keep it easy, then you need to keep doing it. Use it or lose it. It's the principle of reversibility.
I was being told by a number of people that the squat is probably the single best exercise you can do. It works on the biggest muscles in your body. As you say, it enables you to get on and off the toilet. And there's also research which suggests that it leads to increased blood flow to the brain and therefore the release of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor.
I absolutely endorse the notion that squats are probably one of the best exercises you could do for strength. And also you are getting your cardiovascular system going because they're big muscles that require a lot of oxygen. So if you employ the two biggest muscles in your body, your quads and your glutes, you're going to challenge your cardiovascular system as well as your muscular system. So it gets a vote from me too.
Okay. At the moment, I can do enough press-ups in one go, I think it's 40, to get me into the Australian police. I may be a bit old.
How many can Claire
What about
do?
is that a strange goal?
How many can Claire do?
Claire can do 25 at the moment. So
Good
as long
woman.
as I'm ahead of Claire, I'm happy.
Good. Well, no, hang on. Now you're a man, so
I
you
know,
should
it's
be
easier.
you should be ahead because men have an advantage of higher muscle mass to start with, and throughout the various stages of their lives, they will always have more muscle mass and the ability to build muscle. But we all have, and old people in particular, people who are aging, have the capacity to improve strength. A lot of people think, oh, it's too late. It's not too late. We can build muscle mass at almost any age.
So I do it with Claire, and it helps we're doing it together. It also helps that we have something which cues us to do it, which is getting out of bed. You talked earlier about just getting up and in and out of the chair at the adverts. What sort of other things would you suggest people do just as a way of building some resistance exercise into their lives and therefore a bit more muscle mass?
Yeah, so I mean, resistance exercises traditionally have its image of being in a gym, pumping weights, wearing Lycra. But of course, weight exists everywhere. Our body is a weight. So you talked about doing press-ups, so you're pushing your body weight. So you could apply that to anything. You could take 2 bags of shopping or any weight that you have and do bicep curls. So taking them in your hands with your arms straight and bending your arms up, that's a bicep curl. You don't need a fancy machine. You don't need a gym. You can do calf raises, standing when the kettle's on or in the kitchen while you're waiting for something to cook or whatever it is that you're doing. You can do toe raises on both feet or on one foot, and that overloads the calf and helps maintain the muscle mass there. So almost for any muscle, I would sometimes, I have a standing desk at home, and when I'm standing at home at a standing desk, I would do side leg raises because actually the musculature to either side of your hip are really important as we get older to prevent falls.
Absolutely. Now, we've talked about some of the reasons why you might want to do resistance exercise and look after your muscles, but what are the other advantages of having more muscle?
Okay, well, muscle is really your furnace in the body. So it takes fuel, it burns fuel, it uses energy. And so if you have more muscle mass, then your metabolism stays higher. So if you have 2 people, same weight, but one has more muscle and the other has more fat, then the person with more muscle just sitting still, not doing anything, is burning more calories. So there's a real benefit if you're thinking about trying to maintain a healthy body weight or you're trying to keep your blood glucose or your blood sugar under control, then having well-charged furnaces, keeping your muscles gives you the benefit of the metabolic boost.
Brilliant. So your second tip in summary is focus on your muscles as you get older, because after your mid-30s, your muscle mass will decline unless you do something about it. And we need muscles for all sorts of reasons: to stay mobile, to maintain our balance. They're a great way to soak up excess sugar in the blood, avoid problems like type 2 diabetes. So as well as the aerobic exercises, running, swimming, cycling, do some sort of resistance training. It doesn't have to be down the gym with weights. It can be just using your own body weight, but do it.
Perfect. You summed it up perfectly.
Fantastic. You're listening to Just One Long Thing with me, Michael Mosley, and I'm here talking to Professor Marie Murphy for this exercise special. Now, I know you have been a keen runner. Are you still?
I am. I'm not a fast runner, so I wouldn't want to give anyone the impression that I am a champion by any means. I don't run fast at all. I run incredibly slow, but I love it, particularly outdoors in nature. And so I'm still running, and I keep saying I'm hoping to be running for, well, at least another decade.
And do you get a buzz out of it?
I do. Now, I have to say, I train with an athletics club, and there are a couple of sessions that we do a week that I can honestly tell you I don't enjoy while I'm doing them. And so people always talk about this issue of enjoyment. But But what I absolutely enjoy is finishing them. When I finish the session, I feel good. I'm happy that I did it. I go home, I have my dinner, my tea or whatever. I've socialized with my teammates in the club, and then I enjoy it. So sometimes if I'm out running in nature, I run with my good buddy Sharon, and we do a long Sunday morning run. Beautiful, beautiful environment. And that I enjoy while I'm in the moment. Some of the harder running sessions that I do, I can't say I enjoy doing at the time, but really glad when I finish them. You rarely regret exercise.
Now, I have to say that I do run, but I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy it really at any point. And I had myself tested a while back with a bunch of people who love running, and we were measuring something called endocannabinoid levels, which you're familiar with, a cannabis-like substance which gives you a bit of a high.
Mm-hmm.
And the others, their endocannabinoid level shot up. Mine stayed completely flatlined throughout. However, I do enjoy walking. So that leads us into our next tip. What will it be? Tip number 3.
Well, this tip is that walking can change your life. Mm-hmm. Now, I've spent a career researching walking, so I'm a big advocate of walking. And although I love running, I know it's not for a lot of people. And I think you've hit upon something that the psychologists will tell you after all of their years of research in physical activity and getting people to be active. The crucial message is find something you enjoy. If you can find something you enjoy, then it becomes self-reinforcing. You keep coming back
to it. But I feel I should be running. That's the trouble. I'm out there having a brisk walk, and I feel I should be putting on my shorts and
absolutely
sprinting.
Not. Absolutely not. And in fact, I could actually argue the point that I don't think running is healthy for some people and for certain body shapes. And as we age, there's a fair bit of impact with running. So you're leaving the ground and you're hitting the ground. So if you're going to get injured, then you're more likely to get injured running than walking. And lots of the work that we've done has shown that if you walk briskly enough, you can get your heart rate up and you can get up to vigorous, certainly moderate intensity, but you can get to vigorous intensity. I've just spent the weekend in Edinburgh, and I have a colleague, a very good friend, lifelong friend called Aileen, and she walks at a speed which sometimes I have to jog to keep up with her. So you can walk briskly.
My wife Claire is like that.
Perfect.
I timed her. She's kind of in the 110 to 120 paces a minute, which is jogging.
Perfect. Yeah. No, and I
sort of resent the fact that I have to push myself to keep up with that. But on the other hand, I know it's really good for me.
It's brilliant. So I would never undersell the benefits of brisk walking, and I would never promote running over brisk walking, because I think in terms of what the body doesn't really know whether you're running or walking in terms of the health benefits. What it knows is your heart rate's gotten up, your blood is circulating more, you've got a higher demand for oxygen, and those things can happen whether it's running or brisk walking. And so the stimulus could be the same just from brisk walking. So keep brisk walking. Forget the running if it's not what you enjoy, because if it's not what you enjoy, you won't make it a habit and you won't come back to it all the time.
Okay, I'll try not to feel guilty about it. I can console myself with the thought that as long as I'm doing brisk walking, I'm getting many of the benefits.
You definitely are, yeah.
Since COVID, people are working far more from home. That means they're sitting in front of the screen a lot more. How would you go about encouraging those people to get more activity into their life?
Yeah, it's a very interesting challenge. And some of my colleagues at University of Edinburgh, where they've tried to encourage people to think about how they can be active during their home working day, because once you stop traveling to work, you're suddenly reducing the amount of physical activity. And a couple of neat little things that they've come up with is, why not have a home-to-home commute? So before you sit down at your desk, why not head out and just do the same distance that you would have done? Walk to the train station and back, and then sit down and start your day. Or do that cycle or that walk as if you were commuting to your workplace, but your workplace is your home. Second thing they've talked a little bit about is, why not try to break up your sitting? Because we know that sitting for prolonged periods is probably damaging to our health. And so why not every now and then stand up, set an alarm on your computer to remind you. So I suppose we have to try to reinvent where the physical activity has been subtracted from our daily lives and reinsert it back into our daily lives while we're at home.
Absolutely. I mean, I work much more from home these days, as does my wife Claire, and we often meet in the kitchen for coffee, but sometimes we'll go down to town. So we walk down to town, it's a mile and a half away, walk back again. We have a coffee down there, there's kind of a reward, and then we return.
Perfect. And you would think about it, that's what you would have done if you were in an office or somewhere else. You would meet somebody, you'd even walk to the canteen, meet them for coffee, or you'd both go out and buy your lunch somewhere. And so putting that activity back in that way feels quite natural. Initially, it might feel a bit false. Why am I leaving my my house to buy a coffee when I can make one downstairs. But just the act of getting out, even into the garden or whatever, for a little while is good for your mental health as well.
Absolutely. One of the other things I encourage people to do is drink lots of water, not least because it means they'll at least get up and go to the loo.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Because, and again, your distance from your desk to your loo and your desk to your coffee is much, much reduced than it is in the working office. So you have to replace that somewhere. And so you need to think creatively. I love the stairs. So what I tend to do is my office is upstairs. I go down the stairs and I try not to do two things in one stair trip. I try to take the stairs a couple of times. So if I'm bringing up washing or I need to go, I don't mind forgetting something is what I'm saying. So rather than bringing 3 or 4 things, make it 3 or 4 trips. Try to maximize rather than minimize the number of times you climb your stairs.
So your tip here is do more walking. Don't treat it as an inferior form of exercise. It's a brilliant form of exercise. You even suggested you do an artificial commute. If you no longer need to go to the station and back again, just do it anyway. Set your hourly alarm as a reminder to get up and be active. Just do more walking. Fantastic. Now, what's your next piece of advice to keep us physically active? What's tip number 4?
As I started talking about earlier, I think you have to find something that you like doing, something that you enjoy, because we all know that if it's something you don't like doing, then it'll be the thing that you avoid. So first and foremost, I'd say is find a healthy motive for exercise. And for far too long, some people have taken up exercise because they think, oh, I need to lose weight. And that becomes the primary driver. And we'll see it now. You see it in January every year where people think, I've overindulged at Christmas, New Year, new me, and I'm going to exercise to lose this weight. Well, the bad news is that exercise alone is unlikely to have a massive impact on your weight. And so it's not the best way to lose weight. There are better ways to lose weight. And also, that then makes exercise feel like a punishment. It's something negative that you have to do because you did a different behavior. So my absolute advice is try to find a form of activity, even if it's not formal, if it's not gym, if it's not wearing lycra, if it's not running, if it's not joining a club, whatever it is that you enjoy doing.
Like you, I'm unconvinced that exercise is a great way to lose weight. The trouble is that people underestimate how many calories there are in, say, that muffin, and they grossly overestimate how many calories they're burning when they're going for the run or doing. And then they go to the gym in January, they exercise like crazy, they don't lose much weight, and they give up. And that's because they're motivated by the wrong thing. They're looking at the wrong numbers.
Absolutely. And I think that is exactly it, is if you see exercise as something that you have to do simply to burn off the calories that you shouldn't have eaten, then you're on to a loser, because you're always going to be on the losing end of that argument. And as you say, exercise has so many other benefits that are nothing to do with calorie burning, that if you just put everything into calorie burning, you're going to be disappointed, because it's not going to help to shift the kind of weight that you want. That requires, lifestyle, dietary habit changes and other things. We know that obesity is a very complex disease, but essentially I would say to people, do not make exercise about weight. Make exercise about something that you enjoy doing, that gives you a buzz. And even if you mightn't enjoy while you're doing it, you finish it and you feel good later and you think, oh, I'm glad I did that.
For me, it's slightly different to that. I'm doing it because of the benefits, but they're not weight loss benefits. So, for example, I'm doing the squat. We both love the squat. Yeah. Now, I don't love doing the squat, and I do it to the point where it hurts, where it burns. But the reason I'm doing that is because I know that it's helping build my muscle, so I'm going to be able to get off the toilet when I'm older. I know that it's improving my mental health, probably because of the flood of oxygen going to my brain, and I know there's a bit of competition there with my wife. I can keep ahead of her. So those are kind of my primary motivations.
Yeah, no, I would have to say I think those first two are probably not, you're probably unique in that. You have a background in this area and you're thinking of the future. I think if we try to sell the benefits for the here and now, it's easier, particularly to young people. There's very little point me talking to a 20-year-old about getting on and off the toilet in their 90s, because it's too distal. It doesn't mean anything. So I think trying to find something that makes them feel good, if not right now, then later. I think that's far more important than thinking of the benefits in years to come.
What do you find are the motivators for people in their 20s?
Well, I suppose 20s we know is when life changes and people go away, university, first job, they get married, they have kids, and life changes. And so I think in actual fact, it would be hard to say generically what motivates a 20-year-old. For me, it's about making sure that they are aware of the benefits for their mental health and that they keep reinventing what they enjoy, trying new things, trying as much as you can until, because what you enjoy in your 20s might not be what you enjoy in your 30s. But if you start with the premise that I need to be active every day, then I'll try different things. I now do reformer Pilates. I something I never would have done in my 20s or 30s, but I actually really enjoy it. So it's being open to try any physical activity the same way as you would try foods and see what you like. And then the one you like is the one you eat more of. Similar with physical activity. That changes over time. Find the one you enjoy and keep going back to it and make it a lifelong habit. Not the type of exercise, but the fact that you're doing exercise needs to be a lifelong habit.
You said right at the beginning that your motivation now is essentially to make sure that as you get older, you don't lose it.
Absolutely, because as I said, I'm blessed with having been healthy and I want to maintain that. I've watched people age and I want to age well. And for me, aging well means being able to do the things I want to do with, at the moment, children, perhaps one day grandchildren. I want to be able to do things on my own steam. And I'm a pretty independent person. And I don't want to be reliant on other people if I can, for as long as possible.
To sum up, have a positive relationship with exercise. Don't use it as a way of losing weight, because you probably won't. Find something you enjoy and you're more likely to continue with it regularly. And if you can, focus on the pleasure you get from doing this activity rather than the pain you're getting.
Absolutely. Perfect again. Yeah.
Okay, Marie, what's your fifth and final tip?
My last tip is buddy up. So as I said to you, I'm a social person, and I do think that having an exercise buddy, so somebody or several buddies that you are active with, be they family members, your spouse, your partner, your friend, or people who you almost have a virtual contract with to exercise, is going to keep you adhering to exercise. So my two examples, and I love exercise, but certainly sometimes on a Monday night when it's pouring rain and it's cold and it's dark, and I think, actually, I could do with just sitting on the sofa, or I'm really busy. I could get a couple of emails done and not go out. The fact that I know that there are other people there, or there's a coach, or I'm meeting a friend, or that I would be letting other people down, that's the thing that pushes you out the door. And then once you're out and there, of course, you enjoy it. Same with I walk with a friend, and us agreeing the day before, we agree a time. So we're going tomorrow at 4:00, we're walking and we're doing such and such. If I wake up the next morning and I'm just not in the humour for it, and it happens lots, even to people who love physical activity, I won't pull out of it because I feel like I'm depriving her of it and I'm letting her down. So I think buddying up with somebody and coming up with some sort of social contract where Sunday we do this, we meet at this time and we go together. So it's a routine, and it's a commitment to someone who you are unlikely to let down, even if you would have let yourself down.
Absolutely. I was describing earlier the fact that I do my press-ups and squats with Claire, and we often go out for a walk. But I think the biggest driver in my walking used to be our dog, Terry, who got incredibly exciting. Every time I went towards the door, she would yap away. She obviously loved going for walks, longer the better. And I've noticed since she's declined, but she's getting on now, she spends most of her time, sleeping, and I suspect she's on her last legs. Since she stopped wanting to go for a walk, I've stopped walking anywhere near as much as I used to.
Yeah, a dog is probably the best exercise machine you could buy. Now, not that I'm advocating people buy a dog just for that purpose, but dogs need walked. And so you can't avoid going out and walking every day if you've got a dog. So what a better prompt than a dog coming up to you, looking at its lead, wagging its tail, and almost pestering you to walk. Because even on those days that it's wet and it's rotten and you don't really want to go out, you've no choice. They want to go out. And so I do think dog ownership, and there's a bit of research that shows that those who own dogs get more steps per day. So a dog walk and walking a dog is probably one of the best things you could do for your health.
Okay, so buddy up, find a pal, join a club. do something where you're doing it with another person so that when it's a rainy Monday morning, you don't want to let your buddy down. And a dog is a perfect ally from that point of view. Brilliant. So tell me, of all these things, which is the most important tip? We've covered 5 tips, all of them great, but which for you is the most important?
Yeah, maybe it's an age or stage thing in life, but certainly I think at this stage it's about doing muscle strengthening and balance type training. And for me, if I had to choose just one exercise that I would do and try to do daily, it would be either squats or that action that I talked about, standing up from a chair, an armchair, and sitting back down into an armchair without using your arms to press on the arms. So squats every day is probably my number one exercise for trying to maintain some muscle mass as I move into my whatever decade.
Yeah, right. So your top tip is to focus on your muscles as you get older. And that's going to be important when you are older for ensuring that you're able to get in and out of a chair. But it also comes with lots of other benefits. I have to say, I would agree with you.
Good.
I don't love squats, but I do them. With me, they compete with press-ups, because I do like press-ups. When I say I like them, I don't really mean I like them, but I'm quite good at them.
You're quite good at them.
So that keeps me motivated. But I think probably the tip I would go with is basically find somehow to build activity into your life. Those short bursts you described earlier, something which makes it inevitable in the way that you're going to do it. Exercise snacking, there's all sorts of words for it, but essentially make it part of your life so that you just do it. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to put your trainers on. You don't have to call up your buddy. It's just something that gets your heart racing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you think through your day from morning till night, there are loads of little opportunities that we could just make more active. Every bit of your day has choices, and those choices could be active choices.
Thank you very much, Marie. It has been wonderful to hear about your research and your advice, and I think you've given us some really great tips.
Okay.
Firstly, exercise in short, vigorous bursts. That's a great way of boosting your metabolism a bit and fitting activity into your life. Have a healthy motivation to exercise. Don't, for example, try to use exercise to lose weight, because it probably won't work. Find something else which will motivate you. Walking can change your life. I'm delighted to hear that, because I love walking and I did wonder whether it was actually an inferior form of exercise. So I'm delighted to hear I don't have to go for all those runs. Buddy up, which I think is a brilliant piece of advice, and it absolutely is something that is necessary to keep you motivated. And finally, your top tip: focus on your muscles as you get older, because if you don't use them, you'll lose them. And I'm totally behind you on this one as well. And probably the exercise you would choose above all others is the squat, yeah?
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you very much, Professor Marie Murphy.
Thank you.
To benefit your brain and body in ways you might not expect, here's one other thing you can do right now.